1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
Yes, indeed. That is us, WDXE, and my good friend Stan Pierchoski is in here. It is time for Bulletproof Estate Planning with Stan Pierchoski. How about that?
It is once again. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to the weekend and Christmas.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
We feel good. I think we've got everything ready.
Yeah. While we're on that topic, are we on here for next Friday?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to take off Monday and Tuesday, but I'll be back through the rest of the week.
Gotcha.
Like that. That's the plan, anyway.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. Well, I'd like to say good morning to everyone, and certainly Merry Christmas. This will be the last time we'll get to talk on the radio before Christmas.
Yeah.
I hope everybody has the merriest of Christmases. And let's not I always say this, but let's not forget what Christmas is all about. I mean, there's so much there to be thankful for and to respect. And
absolutely,
it means so much to me and my deity. So anyway,
yes,
it's there's a simple saying that's almost it's so simple, so simplistic that it's just so true. And that is, you ever hear the saying, Jesus is the reason for the season?
Oh, yeah,
It's very simple, but it just hits the nail right smack on the head.
Absolutely.
And I don't like to lose sight of that. But, we got some family coming in.
Oh, good.
And, of course.
Got a new grandbaby?
Well, they won't be here, but...
but I know, but you got to
That's
go.
right. That happened. That was a blessing. So we got that. We got some folks that will be there. And it turns out... it's going to mostly be at my house this year. Usually we do have a certain way we do it, but certain circumstances, everybody's coming here. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
For the most part.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. But anyway, so it'll be nice. It'll be nice and relaxing, and that's the way it ought to be. Just kind of low key and enjoy family and talk and just
absolutely
just decompress from.
Well, the Christmas happens at the end of the year, and so we've had a year together. We've had the ups and downs of a year, and we can be thankful that we've got to the end of the year and look forward to a new year. And of course, we remember the blessings and the gift of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. And it's just a humble time. It makes you think of things that you should be thinking of all the time, but don't.
Yeah.
And every year you get reminded. Hopefully you think of it just a little bit more throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you got a good family coming and a good time to look forward to.
Well, just let me start off with a couple things. One, we got a seminar coming up, but the other thing is that I always forget to give the call-in number. Somebody wants to call in because I just love to get questions. I really do. I get them all day long at the office. People call or email, and I love to respond to them. Because they're always so different. A lot of times you get the same question, but it's kind of basically a little bit of a twist to it.
Yes.
When it comes from different people in different circumstances. So the number to call in, if I remember it, is 931-766-9393.
That's right.
Pretty easy to remember. Call in and ask a question about anything estate planning. I guess you could call in and ask what my favorite color is if you really want to. But all questions will be.
I said that number for years, 9393, and didn't realize that it was also WDXE on the letters.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, on the letters it's 766
on the phone,
WDXE.
Wow, that's pretty convenient.
Yeah.
So 931-766 WDXE.
Yeah, WDXE
Cool.
or 9393. How about that?
That's an omen. That's a sign. Well, anyway, I'm going to mention a seminar coming up. It's not local, but it is coming up on January the 13th, which is Saturday. Going to be up at a place called Suite 501, and I forget the number. I think it's like 1391 Mary Lindsay Polk Drive. Up there's the actual physical address in Franklin, and that starts at 10 o'clock. Just if you want to come to that, you get on our RSVP list because it's kind of a limited seating. Call my office at 931-363-7222, and you can. And I don't think 722 would be Pierchoski. Might be Stan, S-T-A-N. I don't know. But anyway, you can get on that list if you want to, and I'll bring that up again at the end of the hour. So, but when we talk about, we talk about all kind of stuff, and I try to structure it, but I get good questions, and we kind of go off on different directions. But that's what I enjoy about the show so much, and I usually prepare a little something, but I know we're going to talk about something else.
Sure.
And the reason I like getting off on those different topics is because they're real life things usually.
Yes.
You're in the real estate business, and several times you said, I've seen this happen. And,
Right,
And you bring
exactly.
up that's those real life experiences are more educational,
Yes.
than anything that you can run into. So I think that's always a good thing to talk about. And speaking of real life situations, I've got one I want to start off with. We had a fair hearing yesterday, okay, and it was a problematic case. Fair hearing meaning we were trying to get 10-care eligibility,
Okay.
and they denied it. Well, actually, this spawned from a do-it-yourself application.
Oh, wow.
Which
Okay.
I take those. Sometimes I tell myself I'm not going to do it again, but then I always do. But and unfortunately, kind of inherit what comes with it. But anyway,
Yes.
and it turned out that the original application just wasn't going to get it. It had been denied, and there was no way to cure it. That's when it came to me, and so we scrapped it and changed some of the assets around, like you hear me talk about,
Right.
and then we refiled.
Yes.
And they had it for a really long time, and then they come back and denied it. And the problem was in this denial letter, they didn't tell us why. They just said denied, and which is unusual. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't figure.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being picked on or something. It's like, why didn't they? A lot of times they'll say they won't give you much detail, but they'll give you an idea of what the denial is, and they really have to under the rules, right?
Yes.
And so we're sitting there looking at the numbers, trying to figure out what it was, and I came to the conclusion, they're wrong. There's nothing wrong with this application. This person's eligible. And so, we called them, tried to talk to them, and of course, sometimes you get a caseworker and they'll discuss it with you, and they'll say, oh, okay, it's because of this, that, this or that. And so you have an idea what it is. And so, but, this time, nobody really wanted to spend the time talking to us about it, so we filed an appeal.
Right.
And that was scheduled for yesterday, 21st.
Okay.
And in the meantime, they came out with something else where they assessed a penalty period. Remember, we talk a lot about penalty period.
Yes.
And this one really came out of left field. And they kind of said, well, there's a certain amount of money that was transferred on such a date back in June of 22, and we're imposing a penalty period for that. And so we looked in the records, and we found where there actually was that transfer of the money. But we also found that about 2 or 3 weeks later, the money was put back in. So, you can cure, if you give a gift and you get it back, you can cure a gift, which makes the penalty period go away. And so we brought that to their attention. And of course, they said, well, you can argue it on appeal. So we thought, okay, that's what we'll do. So we had the hearing yesterday, and we brought all this up.
Okay.
And the attorneys we were talking to, so the hearing was almost a hearing. It got set off for another date. I say almost a hearing because we brought up enough stuff that the court said, you know what, rather than set a separate hearing for this issue and another one for the penalty period, and said, we want to hear it all at one time. And it sounds like there's a lot of documentation that needs to be sorted out. One side's claiming a gift was made on a certain date. The other side shows bank records that no such gift was made. It was made on a different date. They're claiming it was a gift that left the estate and never came back. The other side showing documentation where it did come back. So they said, we're going to punt this out a couple of weeks. It's somewhere in January. They're going to get back to us on the date. And
Okay.
so it'll probably be in January. And we're going to sit down and we're going to really map out the going into the account and coming out of the account. We've already done that. We've seen it. I mean, it is bulletproof. I mean, I don't understand the resistance we get sometimes, but if it comes down to it, I mean, we will be successful with this because we have a clear black box, the gazins and gazouts, I call it sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, we look at this bank account. There was this gift was made, but on my advice at the time, I said we need to give it back and cure the gift, so we don't have the penalty period.
Yes.
So the person gave the money back, and that cured the gift. It was exact amounts. I mean, they did exactly what was told. Now, again, they're not revealing their logic, but they have to reveal it to the court.
Yes.
And I just don't like hearing it for the first time when you get there, because that's not the way court is. We're entitled to know what their position is.
Yes.
Just like they're entitled to know ours. There's no surprises in court,
Right.
supposedly. But when they don't tell us, and I bring that up, but I don't ever seem to get relief for it.
I'll ask you a quick question about that. You said there's no surprises in court, but
Not
if you
supposed to be.
but if you watch courtroom drama shows, they thrive on having surprises.
Oh, all the time. There's a show on TV on Netflix, I guess.
Yes.
It's called Suits. A lot of people are watching it.
I have seen pieces of
And
it.
I watched it here and there. I watch a lot of TV, but I watch it. And I enjoy it. It's a cool storyline, but it is so far from reality. It's not even
Yes.
funny. and that's what makes it a cool show for
Yes.
me. Reality is kind of boring. If it
Did
was
you
really,
did you watch L.A. Law back then?
I did. Yeah.
We were into that, watching that.
And a long time ago when I was still in law school, there was a show called The Practice.
Yes.
That had McDermott in it and several other. But anyway, if a legal show or a courtroom show was true to reality, it would bore you to tears.
It wouldn't be a great show.
Yeah, but I love. We were watching an episode of something that Suits. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and they said they go to court and they're arguing about something, and the court says, "Okay, trial starts in 2 weeks." It's kind of like My Cousin Vinny. Trial begins Monday morning for a murder trial. And then somewhere while they're preparing and arguing with each other, the DA walks in and hands them some paper and says, "Trial got moved to tomorrow." And instead of anybody saying anything like, "What?" They say, "Oh, hurry up. We're going to have to be here all night getting ready for trial tomorrow." It's like, first of all, you don't move a trial like that. Second of all, it certainly doesn't happen what they call ex parte, one side moving it and the other side having no opportunity to be heard.
Right.
It is just far from reality, but it makes for a good show to watch.
Yeah,
it does.
It does. And I interrupted your train of thought.
No, that's all right.
You're back on.
So we're pretty confident we'll be okay with this, but it's another delay. And this is I guess the point I'm trying to make is a lot of folks try to do this on their own. And I would never discourage that, but I mean, if you're going to try and do it on your own, I mean, you really ought to know what you might be getting into.
Yeah.
They know we know what we're talking about. This is not our first rodeo. We've got approval after approval after approval.
Yes.
I know some of them by name, okay?
Yeah.
And they know, I can only think they know we're right. I mean, so I don't understand.
Maybe they just need something to do.
I don't understand the resistance. I mean, I get the concept. Here's the concept. Us coming in as the applicant, our job is to get the state to pay as much as possible and us pay as little as possible.
Right.
And their job is to get you to pay as much as possible and the state as little. I mean, it's an adversarial position at this point, and I understand their job, okay? But with those two goals in mind for each side, we have the rules that define. I mean, you can't have a goal that doesn't fit in the rules.
Right.
I mean, then it's just a wish.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and sometimes the rules get, I don't know. It's an administrative court, so it's not as formal, but it's pretty close. You still have to do the rules of evidence, and when you have witnesses, and the rules still apply. So, but we'll see. But the bottom line is, I actually took it as a favorable thing because the court was interested in seeing everything laid out.
Yes.
Because we said we've got it all laid out. Every time we show it to them, they don't listen to us. And they don't have to. Or here's the thing: if you start talking to them about it, you start feeling like you're starting to show them what you've done and that's correct.
Yes.
Then they play the card where they often say, "Well, you know what? You can just argue it on appeal. I don't want to talk about it anymore."
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like passing it off to the attorney, because people you talk to that say that are the caseworkers.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the hearing, it's the attorneys. And the attorneys know how things work. And I have had several hearings that were like that. I'd gone in, and a lot of the hearings are telephonic since COVID anyway.
Yes.
And so I had a hearing where, I started talking, and I got halfway through my opening, and the other attorney just said, "I hate to interrupt," because you're not supposed to ever interrupt during an opening statement, right?
Yeah.
He said, I don't want to interrupt, but let's save us all a little time. And I have looked at this, and you're right. What they said was wrong is not, and you were correct. So we're ready to recommend approval. So, the hearing lasted like 12 minutes, or something like that.
That's cool.
I mean, and that happens sometimes if you get somebody that's reasonable. But,
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing. I think we call them inappropriate denials.
Yes.
Because there's a mistake. Inappropriate doesn't mean necessarily that they're doing it just for the heck of it.
Yeah, just made a mistake.
And and that's what they call it on our side. If you gift away money, they call it an inappropriate transfer of funds. It sounds like it's bad, but it just means inappropriate, meaning you gave money away and now there's a consequence to that.
Well, let me ask you about that. What is the maximum allowable gift that can be given?
There's none.
What do you mean there isn't?
I mean, there's no maximum.
Okay.
If you have a $10 million farm,
Yeah.
you can deed it to one of your kids for nothing. I mean, you just give it to them, a gift.
Well,
Write a deed and say, for $10, love and affection, here you go.
Okay.
Now, when you do that, when it comes to what we do in 10 care, it will trigger a penalty period if you've given that gift within 60 months or 5 years of going into the nursing home, right?
Okay.
And then so we're going to figure out, okay, how long is the penalty period for that gift?
All right. Now you've rehearsed that with me, and I understand that. But we were talking about a circumstance where we've got no land possession, but we've got a cash amount over here. Let's say it's $100,000, whatever it is. We were talking about this. But there's a inevitability maybe of going into the nursing home in the next 2 months, 3 months.
Okay.
So what do we do?
Well, I mean, if it's a short period of time, we can gift it. But first thing we want to look for, gifting means give it away.
Yes.
Because when you give it away, you change it from a countable asset to a non-countable asset. You actually give it up, and you don't have it to give anymore.
Right.
And so, we could give it away, but the first thing we want to do is look for some person we can give it to that doesn't trigger a penalty.
That's what I'm looking
First
for.
thing that comes to mind is a spouse.
Okay.
If you have a spouse, you've often heard me say I can do a lot of stuff when I have a married couple.
Right.
And one goes into the home. Okay, well, one of the things we have are these spousal impoverishment rules,
Okay.
which allow us to transfer an unlimited amount of assets to a spouse,
Okay.
penalty free.
Okay, good.
A couple other exceptions are a disabled child, and if you got and then to get kind of specific after that, you got an underage child or a blind child that's still living in the home, on and on. So there's only a few exceptions, but there are exceptions. Now, if you're single and you don't have any of those exceptions, now we have to give it to like our kids, and we're going to have a penalty. And that's when we implement those annuity strategies where we gift a portion of it away and retain a portion to buy the annuity to pay through the penalty period that creates by the giving away of the first part.
Okay. That's what I think I was missing.
Now, when you say a maximum gift, I don't know if you're talking about TennCare or taxes, like when you hear people say you can give away $16,000 to as many people as you want. I mean, is that
Right.
Is that what you were talking about?
Well, no. I was talking about in effect for the TennCare.
Okay, yeah. No, there's no maximum, and it gets a little heavy with math, and I don't want to do that on the radio any more than I have to. But that's a great question because there is no upper limit to that penalty period, which means there's no upper limit to the gift. See, the penalty period is based on the value of the gift, right? And so, the reason it's based on the value is because they take the position if you had kept it, you could have paid us.
Yes.
For this time. Yes. This is how much time you could have paid us for. So there's no upper limit. So that brings the question, if you ever give anything away that exceeds 60 months in a penalty period, well, then we want to be careful how we do that. Let me give you an example. If I can come up with a good one. You could give away, actually I'm working on one right now, see if I can remember the circumstances. We have a lot of assets, okay? So, but if we try to do the annuity with it, we had something like a 68-month penalty period. Okay. Now, that's significant to me because it exceeds the 60 months, which is the 5-year period in the first place, right?
Yes.
So, if we give it away now, okay, it would, I think, it would, actually, I take it back. I think it was like 104 months or something like that. It was over 100 months.
Okay.
But it was over the 60 months.
Wow.
So if we give it away now, it will create that. And if we give it away now and apply, okay, let's say we're in the nursing home, okay, or in a facility. So you give it away now and you apply for TennCare. They're going to impose the 100-some month penalty because
right.
Was it given away was it given away? Yes. Was it given away in the last 60 months from entering the nursing home? Yes. Very close in time.
Right.
And so, that we're going to be a penalty to be 100-some months. You have to wait. What's that? About 8 years, maybe 8, 9.
Oh yeah.
So before they'll pay, or before you can be eligible.
Yeah.
Now, as opposed to saying, okay, we got to give it away. Let's give it away. Now we're in the nursing home, right? So a better solution to this would have been ahead of time do this asset protection trust. But now we're actually there and in crisis, right? So let's give it away just like we did, but let's not file a TennCare application. Let's take some money and combine it with our income and purchase an annuity that will hedge against these economic times and stuff like that, and private pay for 60 months.
Yes.
Now file the application. Now we will be eligible because they'll look back and saw that we give away enough stuff to trigger a 104-month penalty, but it's more than 5 years ago.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between the two. And since there's no upper limit to that penalty, it becomes very important as to when we filed for the application as to whether or not that's going to be a factor or not.
Yeah.
And that's what sometimes these do-it-yourself applications do, and it's hard to recover from.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
But anyway, the good news was I took it positive that the court wanted to hear more because I feel like we've got our evidence, in place. It's in good shape. We did all this before we sent the application. We knew there was that gift, and we knew what we had to do. We had to cure it,
Right.
and so we did. And so anyway, I'm pretty confident. I just wish I could tell the family it was over with because this one's been dragging on and dragging on and dragging on. We'll get there, but I'm pretty confident maybe next time around it'll be all right.
Oh,
yeah. Now, although that thing, they did tell that person they were eligible. They granted eligibility. We're just arguing about this transfer and penalty period.
Oh, okay.
And you can do that. You don't have to argue the whole thing.
Okay.
You say, listen, we got the approval, but you say there's a penalty period for 9 months, and you can say, well, we want to appeal that. We think it should only be for 3 months or whatever.
Right.
And so you go to an appeal, you're just arguing the penalty period, or you're just arguing some other aspect of it.
Okay, interesting.
But they granted approval. So goal number one is mission accomplished. He's eligible. Okay, goal number one. Now we just got to fine tune the effect, of what of the other stuff that they're putting in there. So yeah, it's fun for the most part. But anyway, that was that's a real life story. So again, if you want to do this on your own, it's just one of those areas I sure wouldn't recommend it because there's so much involved.
Yeah. But
I don't mean it to say that if you're going to do this, you have to hire me or you have to hire an attorney. I mean, you need to know what you're getting into because if you get denied and have to pay, you can lose an entire estate.
Yeah.
With people rapidly, because our average now is $9,000 a month around here.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just going to go up from there.
Well, pardon me if I'm rehearsing something we may have already talked about, but something in my head says that we talked about. I think it might have been the last time we were together. There's two different ways, I guess, or a different state of being the TennCare taking. And let me see if I can back this up. If someone's going in for rehabilitation, and there's the expectation of them coming back out.
Right.
That's a different thing than being placed in the nursing home when it comes to...
That's right.
And how are those two scenarios paid out?
Okay, I'll be glad to go over that because that comes up a lot.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's usually the way people end up in long-term care.
Okay.
I mean, 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's from the way it looks to the average person, it looks like they're in long-term care.
Yes.
But they really aren't.
Okay.
Or they could be. So let's just go through that.
Okay.
If most people that end up, I mean, sometimes you can just say, you know what, it's too hard to take care of Dad. We don't have enough manpower. We can't afford to bring people in.
Right.
His condition, whatever that is, has just gotten to the point we just need to check him into a nursing home. Okay?
Right.
Now you can do that. But when you do that, the day you get there, they're going to start wanting to be paid for that day number one.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And that's rightfully so. I mean, you're
Yes.
going to provide a service; they need to be compensated.
Absolutely.
But what happens most of the time is somebody falls or gets sick. Okay, let's just take a fall or a stroke. You can, it doesn't have to be. It can be anything you can think of. What we see often is a fall or a stroke. I take it back. Let's use a stroke. So you have a stroke, and it's one of those strokes that you don't completely recover from, but it doesn't completely paralyze you. And you know what I mean? It's somewhere in between.
You have some function.
And so you go to the hospital because you have a stroke. And you're there, and they do what they do for strokes. They give you the clot buster injections. Right. They do whatever. And then you're there for 3 days, or the terminology is 3 midnights. People have heard that concept. You're there for at least 3 days. And now, so what the hospital is going to do is say, all right, we got the stroke under control. Now we're going to send you. Now you need to rehabilitate because there's been some damage, brain damage, and maybe your right side is a little weak or not responsive. And with rehabilitation, you might be able to get a lot of that motor function back. And so they discharge you from the hospital, typically to a long-term care facility. And the reason they send them there is because they have the kind of staff and help to deal with it.
Right.
Okay. So they send you there. Now, when you go to typically it's like a nursing home, right?
Yeah.
When you go there, you are not in long-term care.
Okay.
What's happening is you are in a rehabilitation state, and that is all being paid by Medicare. Okay. You often heard me say Medicare, Medicaid. How can anybody confuse the two? They're only 2 letters of the alphabet different, right?
Right, okay.
But they are very, very different. Medicare is your insurance, right? Medicaid is something completely different. Now, so Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care. So a lot of people get confused because, dad gets sent from the hospital to a nursing home. He's there for a couple of months, maybe 3 months, and they're thinking, well, and Medicare is paying all of that. And they're thinking, what do you mean Medicare doesn't pay long-term care? Well, they don't. They're paying rehabilitation.
Yes.
Okay, now,
yes.
I'm actually glad you brought this up because sometimes you can't say this too many times because
It's very confusing
lot of
if you're not used to it.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes get made here, and that is, you often hear people say, so-and-so's in the facility, and she's got 45 days left on her 100 days. Okay, so the Medicare will pay up to 100 days. Now, the key word there is up to, which means they have discretion on that. So it's not automatic 100 days like people feel. But however, in my opinion, it seems to be a little more generous than I thought it would think it would be. So it's often 100 days. But I just want to make it clear, they can cut it short. And there are situations where they do, and I'll talk about a couple of those.
Okay.
But it is up to 100 days. So what it's called when you go in and Medicare does this, Medicare calls this a spell of illness.
Yes.
And they say if you are in the hospital for 3 days or 3 midnights and go to a facility, Medicare will pay 100% of this bill, okay? Because this is an insurable event. And they'll pay 100% of the bill for 20 days. If you are there more than 20 days, Medicare will pay 80% of it, and you pay the other 20. Now, almost 100% of the people would purchase supplements to their Plan B, right? And so the supplement picks up that 20%. So I don't think I've ever known anybody be out of pocket that 20%. So for the individual, they're not spending anything, okay? Medicare, and now their supplement to Medicare, so we are paying everything. Now they will pay an 80%, 20% split for all the way up to day 100. Okay, now one thing for sure is they absolutely, positively, under no circumstances, will pay for day 101 and going forward, okay? So you get this 100 days. Now, what happens in this 100 days? Well, you're doing rehabilitation, which I guess means you're doing physical therapy. I don't know, you're taking your medication or whatever treatment they're prescribing for your rehabilitation, right? So you're rehabilitating, you're getting better. That's the theory. Now, if it's a situation like you fall and break your leg and, either get it fixed or replaced or, that kind of thing, and you learn how to get your gait back and walk, and you're good, then they send you home. You've rehabilitated. Long-term care never got into the picture, right? The long-term care we're talking about is what's going to happen after day 100, and you're still going to stay there.
Yes.
But Medicare, they get I think they get weekly reports from the doctors.
Okay.
And if the doctors say, yes, he's rehabilitating and he's still improving, then that's good. That's great. But if they say, you know what, last 3 weeks, we've done PT and rehabilitation, and there's been no improvement. It looks like what some people said, it looks like he's plateaued. And he's good. It looks to us like it's as good as it's going to get. Right. Well, if this is happening on day 60, Medicare is going to send a note and say, we will terminate our pay in so many days. Because they only pay rehabilitation, and the rehabilitation has stopped. Yes. Because he's not rehabilitating further. Yes. Now, another situation is if you refuse physical therapy. This is a real horror story. Yeah. If you refuse, I think it's 2 times. It might be 3, but if you say, I'm not going to do physical therapy, and it doesn't matter if you have a reason or not. If you don't do it, it's a refusal. Then they drop you and then their theory is, hey, you're here to rehabilitate. If you're not going to participate in it, we're not going to pay for it. Yeah. I get the logic. I mean, I think it's kind of harsh, but Yeah. I've heard people say, they've walked in while they were there and said, hey, Grandma, it's time for PT. And she says, I'm nauseous. I just don't feel good today. I just don't feel up to it. Well, that's okay. And they leave and they go mark it down as a refusal because that's what it is under the rules. Because you didn't do it. Yeah. And so, if you need to be aware of that. Yeah. If you're in there.
Absolutely.
Because you'll get that letter. So, and again, you're not rehabilitating. Yeah. Now it's a voluntary non-rehabilitate. Yeah. And so they're not going to pay for that. Wow. But so that's this window. We call it the Medicare window sometime. And so Medicare is paying between that and the supplement. You can be there for 100 days and not be out of pocket anything. Mm-hmm. And that does happen more often than I would think it would. I think they'd be stingier on that, but it happens a lot. But it also happens that they do terminate. That can happen too. So just be aware of that. Now, the question is during this window. Is the person going to be, when they're all done paying for it, whenever that is the person going to stay because they need help with so many, what they call ADLs, activities of daily living, right? Or are they coming home? We don't know. But if they're going to stay, now that's the long-term care we're talking about. Now, the only thing that pays for that after day 100 is Medicaid, which in Tennessee is TennCare. That's long-term care. It's no longer the insurance end of it. So there's a transition between the two, and people often confuse it, but it can be a problem if you're not aware of it. So when I brought it up, probably the first time I brought it up, that creates if the person looks like they're going to stay. Okay, I mean, if it's if they're in there because they fell and got hurt, but the reason they fell and got hurt is because they've got dementia and they're having trouble with their motor skills and stuff, and now they get rehabilitated for what maybe the broken hip was, but the dementia is going to keep them in there. You know what I mean? Or if it's going to be something like that,
right?
Then that window for Medicare creates an opportunity for us. We can start getting this person eligible, so that when they do stop paying, and they're now going to the home and they're going to be in a private pay situation, we're all ready to file this application. And because it takes time. If you come to me today and say, hey, Aunt Gertrude's in the nursing home, we want to get her eligible, I'll say, great. We got a whole lot of documentation to gather. We got to look at all these assets, see what kind they are, what posture they're in, what we can do with them. And I think I mentioned one week that, so, okay, well, we got this IRA and we got a investment account with Edward Jones or Raymond James or Morgan Stanley or somebody. Okay, well, now that we got these third-party insurance companies or these third-party financial institutions, and we want to get this money, we got to send them our power of attorney.
Yeah.
They sniff and scratch it for a week, and then you got to request a surrender, and they take their good old time sending you the surrender forms.
Yeah.
Then they got to cut you a check, and then they got to mail it. And sometimes they'll just say up to 30 days.
Yeah.
And when you magically get the check on day 30, it tells me they don't even mail it till day 28 because they say, oh, the mail, it could take 30 days in the mail. Have you ever known anything to take 30? I mean, I'm telling you, every now and then something gets lost in the mail. But
Sure.
I have not experienced, in my entire life, I've not experienced, or very few incidents where something got lost in the mail or took 30 days to get there.
Yeah.
Even if it's coming from Taiwan, it'll get here before 30 days.
Seems to me, yes.
But I mean, they say that, and that's their policy. So there's this delay.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of assets a lot of people have,
Right.
most people. So we can't get you eligible overnight. It's going to take us a couple of weeks. I usually tell people that we got to have at least 3 to 4 weeks. And it depends on the asset. If you say, all we got is my house, my car, and some cash money in the bank, well, that'll go fast, okay? That'll go fast. But most people have those other kind of assets, and now we have to deal with these other parties that no matter how much we beg and plea and say, look, Aunt Gertrude is in a nursing home. We're bleeding to death. We're paying $9,000 a month. We're bleeding to death financially. Please, can you hurry that up? I've tried it. It doesn't work. I don't ask anymore. What we do is we just we put it in. We call them every day. They say, okay, we can't talk to anybody till we see a power of attorney. Okay, we send it to them.
Yes.
I think I even mentioned that's something you can do ahead of time now. Even if you got somebody I don't really foresee them going in a nursing home for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, all these assets that I have with Vanguard or Fidelity or whoever, send them their copy of the power of attorney now. Get it on file. And it can save us a week to 10 days down the road.
Oh, yeah.
Get it on there. And then, so there's this inherent delay. But if we're on this Medicare window where they're paying, it's easier for the family because we're not private paying. Medicare is paying the facility 100%.
Okay.
And so that's I usually bring it up in the context that is a tremendous window of opportunity for us to work in, where you don't have this huge cost of the long-term care that you're bearing yourself. But I do get people that call me and say, hey, like today's Friday, I'll get a call and say, Grandma's 100 days runs out Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it's, it's just a missed opportunity at that point. But so that's why I like to talk about it, make it clear. If you find yourself in a situation.
Yes.
Because sometimes I'll have a client that'll come in and say, hey, this is Friday. Grandma went in the nursing home Monday.
Oh, my.
And they discharged her, or in the hospital, and they discharged her to the home for so-and-so, and she's not coming back. We got this 2 or 3 month period, probably more time than we need now. And so we can get all this ready. We can even file the application while Medicare is still paying.
Yeah.
When they quit, we are right where we need to be, way ahead of the game. You know what I mean? So
yes.
I bring it up in terms of letting folks know that you need to know the difference between two and how they work, so that if that happens, you need to know that you need to act quickly.
Yeah, that is super good information.
It is.
It really, really is.
I mean, sometimes it
Separate
works.
those two worlds, and you can see how these affect each other. and you can plan for it, then that's
Like
a
I
whole
say,
different ballgame.
They're 2 letters of the alphabet different. I wonder why. I don't know. That was back in the 60s when they came out with that. But they are so different on what they do and what they pay for.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of confusion. A lot of times I have people say, or occasionally someone will say, well, I have a long-term care rider on my Medicare.
Yeah, yeah.
There is no such thing. I mean, whatever you're thinking of, it's not correct. And I've had people say that. I said, well, bring it to me. And we look at it. And I can point out why it's not what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who sold it to you or what they said, but what it is what it says in the policy.
Yeah.
That's where the rubber meets the road, not what the salesman told you it was.
Right, exactly.
The language and the 4 corners of that instrument is what's going to control it. And when you find the language that I'll point out to you, you'll realize that it's not a long-term. You can get long-term care insurance, but it's not through Medicare. Okay, so there's and you're right, it is confusing, and there's no way I can educate anyone over the radio or even any other way really. But the basics, like I'm going over, you need to know. You need to know that if they're in there and they're paying, that's a finite amount of time.
Yes.
And let's take advantage of that. Let's put that time to good use, because if you come to me without it, we're going to have delays. And you can call me every day, and every day I can call the insurance company, and every day they're going to say, yeah, we got that. We'll cut a check within 5 to 7 days. Call them the next day. You get the same story. Finally, if you call them every single day, eventually you'll call them and they'll say, yes, we cut that check. Please allow 2 weeks for it to arrive.
Right.
And so call them and eventually it does arrive. I mean, it's a delay that we cannot do anything about.
What's been your experience, and I'm asking this just kind of blindly, I guess, but what's been your experience dealing with the nursing home themselves, management, or do you ever deal with the nursing homes management themselves as far as helping someone apply or things like that? It just dawned on me that there might be a relationship between you and some of the nursing homes. I don't know, maybe not, I'm just talking about as far as helping someone get qualified.
Sure. You can talk about that. When you're talking about a facility, they have their nursing and support staff,
yes.
And then they got the administration group.
Right.
They don't. They're 2 different things. The administration deals with the running of the business of the nursing home, and the money and the bills and expenses and salary and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I don't do much with the nursing folks. What I hear is they are great folks that provide great care.
Right.
I mean, those people, whatever they're getting paid, I'm sure it's probably not enough.
Not enough. Yeah, I mean, they're to be.
And have the patience of Job.
I admire someone who can go. And I know some young people that have taken that on and like it.
Yeah.
It takes a special person to do that.
And I get a lot of feedback in certain places that they just do a wonderful job. And I don't get much involved in that because it's a medical thing, right?
Yeah.
So, but we deal with the eligibility. We deal with the administration. Okay. Now, I got a pretty good relationship with most of them. Some are more difficult than others, but I mean, some of that may stem from it's somewhat adversarial in a way. I mean, but. I think the perception is sometimes a facility will feel as though they're not getting paid, and they're concerned about that. And I don't blame them. They're providing a service; they need to be compensated. And so sometimes they may think that some of this planning is designed to not achieve that goal, and it's not. Okay, because here's one thing I have in the conversation sometimes with facilities or administrators or people that I deal with, and even my clients. I tell them, I say, look, there is no scenario where the facility does not get paid.
Yes.
There's no scenario here they don't get paid. There are several different ways it's going to end up. It's like who doesn't, where it comes from.
Right.
But there's even the worst scenario, like a situation where you're in a nursing home and you apply your TennCare application, which means you're only paying your patient liability, and it takes 3-4 months for TennCare to do what they're going to do. Because once they approve, then they go back and pay the facility. So they get paid.
Right.
But now it's 3 or 4 months later.
Right. Right.
Then that 3 or 4 months turns into 5 or 7 months because they do something and you have to appeal, or vice versa. I mean, I've actually done things and the state appeal it. So, I mean, but either way, it drags out further and it gets longer, and they get a little more antsy because there's more and more months of the only thing that's getting paid is the liability, which is the income.
Right.
So there's thousands of dollars a month that's racking up. Yeah. And so, when they finally get approved, they go back and pay. Now, sometimes they get approved and they don't go back to the first day. And if that's the case, there's something else we can do. We can apply for something under the code called incurred medical expenses. And,
Yes.
And what and TennCare will let divert the liability to the nursing facility to help to get that paid. So the bottom line is there's no scenario where they don't get paid. It's just a question of where it's coming from, how long it's going to take. But then again, you got to remember this: if a facility agrees to take TennCare patients, and all of them do, then you get all the rules and regulations that go with that.
Yes.
And so you can't complain because it's taking TennCare 3 months before you get your money because you agreed to the system. I mean, and I'm just saying that's the nature of the beast.
This is the business we have chosen.
That's right. And I mean, they have to, because people, if you're going to just be a private paying nursing home, I mean, you have a limited clientele.
Yeah.
And I guess there are places like that,
Yeah. Well, if I was managing, now this is just maybe speaking out of some kind of ignorance here or something, but if I was managing a nursing facility, I would want you or someone like you at arm's reach.
I got that, and I have been approached by some corporate organizations, not like an individual facility, but some of these facilities are under a bigger corporation.
Yes.
And they have many of them all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been approached by some of those corporate places about handling the applications for people that are somewhat indigent. I mean, really don't have much in the way of assets, but to get them qualified.
Yeah.
And that's usually very easy because we don't have to do all this asset juggling.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's still
it would
out.
It would be to their advantage, I would think, to see that all the ducks are in a row and makes
I
a
do too.
smoother job.
I do too, and so do they.
Yeah, that's
but
good.
it's still out because I expressed some interest and they expressed some interest. But it goes to a committee and the committee decides and they meet and it's painfully slow as well. So, but
it's always that way.
If that ever comes up, I'll bring it up someday. Let you know how that turns out. It's kind of been in limbo for 6 months. So.
Maybe they need another consultant. Now, since I'm learning this stuff, we'll get in on this.
You could do. You know what? Bring that up. Yeah, you laugh. No. Okay, and you can be something called a certified Medicaid planner, and you don't have to have a. You don't have to. You do not have to be an attorney.
Yeah, yeah.
There are requirements.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I have to go back and look at them. If you're an attorney like me, you don't become a certified Medicaid planner, but you could be one if you're not an attorney.
Does that
make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, 2 members of my staff are striving for that.
That's a good thing.
You have to have a certain number of. I think you have to have a 4-year degree, but I'm not sure. I think so, at least that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be in law or it's just a degree.
Yeah.
Then you have to have a certain number of hours dealing with these cases. Okay, my staff has got that hands down. They probably had that 2 years ago, so they got the experience, and so they're going to be that way at some point.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is pretty. It's something for them to do, and so these folks could do a lot of this planning, and they're not attorneys.
Yeah,
but they have to be certified.
Well, just knowing the rules.
Yeah,
knowing the rules that we played by.
And it's a tough. The exam is pretty tough because it's about all these rules and all these scenarios and all these circumstances. Just when I went through all those divestments, it took us a couple of weeks to get through them all. There's all kind of circumstances that can come up, and you just got to pigeonhole them into fundamentals.
And every one circumstance is probably a little different.
Yeah, and like I said, if you just have to pigeonhole each thing into its fundamental,
sure,
and then the same rules apply. Just got to distill it down to what it is.
Yeah. Where does this apply? Yes, absolutely.
But we also do all kind of foundational planning, because remember I said I would mention this a little earlier today, and that is the better way to do all this. We talked about all this crisis planning we talk about. All of it. There's a better way. We do this. We got to hurry up and do it. If they turn us down, we got to go to appeal. All this stuff. There's a better way to do that, and that is ahead of time, when you're not in the nursing home, or even if you don't even think you're going to go there. There's people that have they say there's nothing foreseeable, foreseeable.
Right.
And then people that are sick and have maybe a dementia diagnosis and it's or something progressive like Parkinson's. It's like, well, I don't know, but because I got this progressive disease, there's probably increased likelihood I could end up in some place like that.
Right.
So we have all levels of knowing whether we're going to be there or not. Okay. But the better way is to plan this ahead of time. And this asset protection trust that I've talked about many times is a perfect solution to this.
Yes.
But it's got to have some time to do its thing.
Yes.
The 11th hour and 59th minute is not the time to do an asset protection trust. It doesn't really get us where we need to be. 3 years before it happen, I can make most of it work. 5 years before it happens, I can make it all work.
Yes.
So that's a better way to do it. Then when you get to this point where you want to go for eligibility, we don't have to juggle anything around. It's already protected.
Yes.
And except for a minimum amount of things that are not in the trust, because there's typically some things we don't put in there.
Yeah.
Those are can be converted
Yes.
from countable to non-countable with a stroke of a pen overnight. They're
Yes.
super simple, and it's designed to be that way.
Yeah.
Anything that's going to cause us problem, like real estate.
Yeah.
You know, one of the biggest challenges I have is real estate at the 11th hour,
Yes.
and you want to keep the real estate.
Yes.
If somebody says, you know what, I'm in the nursing home, I got this house, it's worth a couple $100,000. I don't care if you sell it. I just want to protect the money. That's not so hard. But if you come to me and say, like I think I mentioned as an example a couple of weeks ago, somebody comes to me and says, listen, mom's in a nursing home. She's the owner of this 400 or 500 acre farm. We've got 3 families that work this farm and rely on it
Yes.
for their livelihood.
Yeah.
The marching orders we have, we absolutely positively have to protect this farm.
Yes.
I'm starting to feel almost I'm getting one hand tied behind my back now. That's hard,
Yeah.
but we can do it. There's ways to do it. I mention them sometimes.
Yeah.
We can do that. We can protect the farm.
But if it had been done 5 years plus ahead of time,
Right.
it would have been easy.
It would have been easier. So we can protect the farm. We put it in the trust at the last second. It's protected. The problem is it might trigger a big penalty period
could
that we have to pay with other assets.
Right.
Whereas if we done it early, we don't have to get into this private pay
Which
mode.
is really the focus of what we started talking with you about to start with, is to do the estate planning. So you do not have to do the emergency stuff at the last minute.
The word planning just implies
Yes.
forethought, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I know that's tough. When I give my presentations, at the end of it, I have a slide that talks about procrastination. And it's like I've been there. I'm guilty as charged. I've done it myself. I've put it off, and people come to me all the time and say, "Hey, I heard what you had to say. We need to do that. My wife and I have been talking about doing that. We want to do that." They just don't seem to ever get around to doing it. And so many people say, "Listen, we've been talking about this for 2 years. I'm glad we finally did it."
Yeah.
So I get the procrastination thing, which is why I bring it up.
Yep.
Get past it. Some of this stuff is really important because I'm going to tell you what, if you find yourself in a situation, especially like a long-term care situation, and that catastrophic cost,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be kicking yourself. There's nothing you can do. Hindsight's no good, right? But you can't go back and fix it. And You're
Yes.
going to be kicking yourself for not doing it, especially if you can think to yourself, I've been wanting to do this, I just didn't do it.
Yes.
I mean, some people end up there and just didn't know they could have done something.
Yes.
That happens a lot too, and that's okay too. But get over that procrastination hump. When people come to my seminars, I offer them in certain incentives. If you're going to sit through my hour and 15-minute long seminar, I'm more than happy to. I give these incentives in cost and incentives with how much time I have, so you can get
Right.
more educated to help get over that hump. I just don't know what else to do to help with that.
Yes.
So I get it. I get the procrastination thing. You have to push yourself past
Right.
it and do it.
Right.
And you'll be glad you did. I mean, I could parade some clients in here that tell you how they feel after they get this thing done.
Well, you're offering plenty of opportunities for people to do that, and especially coming up on January the 13th.
Yeah.
If you could make a trip to Franklin, pretty easy. And of course, beyond that, you'll have some other seminars, I'm sure. But your next scheduled one is January 13th in Franklin, and
That's
you've
right.
got a facility up there to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a great time. It's a good time.
It is.
The present time. Do it now.
That's right. And I've been invited to. I don't know the date, but I'll know it here next Friday probably. I've been invited by the Tennessee Agricultural Extension Office to speak to their farmers.
Oh, good deal.
And that is, and it's going. It's the people that invited me are the ones over here in Lawrence County, but they're
Yes.
going to do it in Giles County.
Okay.
I'm not even sure which facility it is. I mean, he set it up with the office, and the girls picked a date. And
Okay.
I'm going to do that, and and it's for it's for the farming industry.
Yes.
And I think it's like the later in January.
Okay.
So if you're in that boat, if you got income producing property and you're a farmer and you're relying on
Yes.
this land to for your livelihood, that this should concern you. If something happens, you want to
Yes.
preserve that. So we'll be talking to those folks, and I'll have the specifics. I'll try to have them next Friday or so.
Oh,
And that
good.
way
Good
people
deal.
can plan for it. But I'm pretty positive. Alex mentioned to me the date, and it was late in January.
Okay.
I think they meet on Thursdays or something, or
Yeah.
I don't know, the last 3 Thursdays of the month. I'm not sure how their schedule goes, but it's one of those, and it is going to be over in Giles County. I'm not sure exactly how that worked out, but I think maybe because I'm over there, but I travel to Lawrenceburg a lot, so maybe they'll have me again over here or something. It just depends. But
I don't make my living farming, but I have a pretend farm.
Well, but I like to put it this way: I don't make my living farming either, but I certainly depend on the people that do.
That's exactly right.
I absolutely depend
That's
on the people
exactly
that do. Those folks, you talk about some hardworking folks.
Yes, absolutely.
I just bless their heart. I mean, they're talk about a work ethic, and just good old folks, and that is. The first profession was farming.
Well, they enjoy what they do. They enjoy what they do, or they wouldn't be doing
That's
it.
right.
And I'm glad we have plenty of them around here. That's for
and
sure.
they're in such a great. What a profession! You can take a corn seed, okay?
Yeah.
Something like you can take a corn seed and you can plant it, all
Yeah.
right? And when it becomes ripe, you have I don't know how many ears of corn on that stalk of corn, and I don't know how many corn seeds are in each stalk. Let's say 1,000. Okay,
Yeah.
so you get one corn seed, you plant it, you end up with 1,000 corn seeds. That is a grand deal. I mean, that beats any Wall Street market deal. Where else do you know
Yeah.
that you can take one and get yield of 1,000? I mean, it would take a lawyer to screw that up, right? I mean, only a lawyer can mess that up. But I mean, what a grand profession that is, And there's a lot of scriptural stuff about that where like if you're going to tithe and you have I don't. One of the things I enjoy is, if you have a cornfield, let's just say cornfield, and you want to tithe. Scriptures say if you want to tithe, leave the rows on the outside of the field for the poor to come and harvest it.
Leave
you
some
go ahead and
glean.
harvest the thing, but leave that for them, and that is a form of tithing. I just think that's the coolest idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
You see it in the story of Ruth.
Yeah, I mean, and you know why it's such a cool idea and so perfect is you got to remember who came up with the idea.
And of course, all we have and all we will ever have or be has been given to us anyway.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
right.
So, okay, well, listen, I would like, again, everybody, the merriest of Christmas,
Yes.
please enjoy it, enjoy what it's intended for. And it's just so heartwarming and humbling that I just enjoy this time of year. So if you want to talk to me about anything, give me a call at 931-363-7222.
That's
at
correct.
Pierchoski Estate Law, Pierchoski Elder Law. And or you can go to my website, which is easy to get to, estateplanstand.com.
Yeah.
There you can see my calendar and see where the things coming up are. You can attend that way. You can get an email if you want to ask me a question that way, or you can get the phone number if you miss it here and
Right.
call me and set up one of my 15-minute calls and we'll talk. No problem. I'm more than happy to do it. There's no charge for it. I'm not going to send you a bill for 0.1 hours or any of that stuff. I'm more than happy to respond. I do respond. Sometimes the response is a little less timely than I need it to be, but usually toward the end of the day when things wind down, I'll sit down and answer emails and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I do this radio show every Friday morning from 8 to 9. Here at WDXE because it's an informational show. It's a talk show. So.
Well, I continue to learn a lot. Appreciate the time that we get to spend together on Fridays. And, of course, Stan is available via the phone number, the website, and, of course, the seminars, and just giving you every opportunity to do that estate planning like you should and protect your assets. Yeah. The system is there for you, like you talked about.
Yeah.
And if you know the rules and how to use it properly, then it doesn't have to break you.
That's right. It does not have to. It's actually designed to be in your favor.
Right, exactly.
It's less in our favor than it used to be, but it's designed for it. So I see we're actually in the last minute. So again, wish everyone Merry Christmas. You too, Jeff, and everybody
Merry
here at
Christmas.
WDXE. And
Merry Christmas.
We'll be back at it again next Friday. We'll be able to wish everybody a Happy New Year.
Yeah, we'll be ready for the new year after
That's right.
that. So
That's right.
We'll probably have a few more pounds on us after
2024. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought?
We were watching old videos last night of my daughter's first birthday.
I heard you on the
So anyway,
earlier.
that's been fun to do.
Yeah.
Well, God bless, buddy. See you next time. The music's going to hit us here in just a few seconds.
Always a pleasure, Jeff.
All right, man. Take care.
You too.
I'm going to turn that up, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
This is WDXE, W287AA and W237FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect,